Well, good afternoon. Obviously, disappointing game last night that we weren't able to kind of close it out and finish it off the way we wanted to. Rolling through the film here, grinding it out today. A lot of corrections, a lot of adjustments, a lot of things to look at on tape here that we got to get fixed. I think there was some good football on tape too. There's some positives from the game that we can build upon. But certainly, the goal for us is to win and go out and execute for all four quarters. I think the guys, they did a good job of trying to prepare for the game and get ready to go. Certainly, it's a long trip. We're going to go out there and we got to perform. But they did a good job through the meetings this morning and just understanding that this is a process that we go through to try to improve and get better. And certainly, we all had opportunities last night. It starts with me. I got to do a better job in a lot of those situations, just making sure that we execute better. And, I think there was a lot of plays on the field that we really could have had go the other way and things would have turned out differently. But our goal is to try to not put ourselves in those situations. Our goal is to try to go out and play good football for four quarters and not have to rely on a play that could go either way or a 50-50 play to try to win. So, from that standpoint, we just got to keep pushing forward. We obviously have a huge week coming up. It's a great opponent coming in here. So we got to learn from today, get our corrections right, and then turn the page and start studying again and get ready for the Chargers. So certainly have our work cut out from us from that standpoint. So I'll take any questions you guys got.
Matt, you put a big emphasis. You put a big emphasis on special teams. Were you a little bit disappointed looking back at the tape? You had the fumble, the block punt, some penalties, and some of those things associated with special teams. Is that an area you need to clean up?
I think generally, with the team right now, I'd say we're all disappointed, which is probably true because we didn't come out with the win. But I think there's certainly true statements there as far as special teams, some plays in there that we need to do a better job of overall. Penalties are a big part of last night in all three phases. Special teams included the return game for us. We got to do a better job with that. We had the turnover in the red area, which we were fortunate to just keep that to a three-point situation there, and then obviously the block punt, which is it's a pretty critical situation in the game. We want to try to go down and pin them and put them on a long field and make them have to drive and go score, with minimal time. So certainly those are areas we got to, we can't have plays like that and expect, for the outcome to be the way we want it.
You pride yourself on conditioning. You've said, I think in the past, you want to be the best conditioned team in the NFL. A lot of plays in last night's game.
Yep.
Obviously, looking just at the fourth quarter and the way that went, how did you like the conditioning aspect of your team down the stretch?
Yeah, I think we almost had like 90 plays on either side of the ball, and along with special teams, so there's a lot of plays in the heat and all the rest of it. I think conditioning for us is something that is that we build and we go through, and there was some good guys out there that were in really good shape and running around and playing fast and all the way through, and some guys that still need to work on some of their conditioning and reps, and all of that goes into the factor of the early part of the NFL. It's something I think we've talked about a lot with training camp and the minimal amount of practices that we get along with the reps that we actually take in the preseason games. So it is a build-up process through the course of September where we're trying to get guys acclimated to trying to play a full football game. And, we got caught in a situation last night where both sides of the ball played a lot of snaps, and that's probably a lot more than what most teams did at this point, this week. So for us, we're going to continue to work on it and keep pushing. I think the guys, like I said, for the most part, I think a lot of the guys out there were, in really good shape and running around and pushing through. So, but it's a lot of snaps. We gotta cut down on the amount of snaps.
Is that part of the reason why Kevin Strong played so much kind of late in the fourth quarter and overtime, which is maybe a time when you think that you have some more experienced players in there versus the guy in his first game?
No, Kevin, he was slated to play a lot through the course of the game. He's also a little bit of a different bigger body. He's kind of an in-between bigger body, which kind of gives us a little bit of a different package maybe if you per se with him out on the field, especially in those situations where the ball's moving fast. It's a different type of game when that happens. So, but he was, playing through in the rotation as far as that was concerned, but certainly as part of the things that we saw coming out of training camp, he played a lot in training camp, had a lot of good reps in training camp, and we felt like he was in pretty good shape too from that standpoint. He'd be able to go out and play fast.
When you dissect and self-evaluate the fourth quarter, obviously, do you look at either conditioning or did you guys back off a little bit aggressive-wise, rushing Kyler Murray, and even on offense? Do you think you backed off a little bit aggressively when you look at it?
Sure. We definitely didn't back off from a standpoint of play calls or anything like that. Not at all. We know how dangerous he is. He's obviously a great player. Was a great college player and finished off the game really well last night. So from that standpoint, though, just they made some good adjustments. We tried to adjust and match some of the things they did. Give credit to them. Give credit to Larry Fitzgerald. He's a Hall of Fame player for a reason. He made some pretty amazing plays and catches, and that's what he does. And certainly that got them going a little bit and gave them some great field position to take advantage of. So, but really for us, it's just coaching and execution. That's the bottom line with it, as far as that's concerned. All that's got to be better in the fourth quarter, and we got to go out and we got to find a way to win.
Matt, as you watched the film, what did you think of your offensive line and some of the maybe breakdowns that you saw up there?
Sure.
In particular, Taylor Decker seemed like he had a rough debut. What did you think of his?
Well, they got two really good edge players. Suggs has been doing it for a long time, and Chandler Jones, who's one of the best in the league, if not he's top one or two guys in the league in his entirety. Thought for the offensive line, that was a big task in front of them. We tried to run the ball. Some of it was really good. We had some good plays in there, especially late in the run game, and then some were the linebackers. Hicks is a really good linebacker. He had a couple free shots when he ran through there, read and diagnosed some of the plays pretty quickly and got through. Protection-wise, some of it for us, trying to keep the width of the pocket with those two guys. They had some pretty good pass rush games, especially built off some of the protections that we had dialed up to get those guys where they were able to come inside and get into the middle of the pocket pretty quick off of some of those stunts. Were pretty good on their end. They executed those really well. So we just got to, it's a full unit effort up front with the 5 offensive linemen. It may not always be the guy that's lined up on you, maybe different look, different scheme, different pressure, different there was a lot of blitz packages last night, especially late in the game, that they went to that created some different sort of one-on-one matchups that we had to deal with. So all of that is part of the game, but part of the process of, I think I talk about it all the time, getting the offensive line to see everything through the same set of eyes so that everybody's on the same page. We know everybody knows where their help is at, knows how to set, knows where to, go on the defensive lineman and protect the pocket from inside out. So some of that we got to clean up.
You did some rotation with your guards. Just wonder if that was a pregame plan, or was there some other situation, injury or performance otherwise?
No, it was part of the plan as far as that's concerned, and just keep working those guys. We feel we have, we have some depth there, and we could use that to try to keep us fresh through the game, especially on the interior part of the offensive line there, and be able to use those guys in different ways. So that was part of the plan.
Go ahead. It's just you mentioned that Larry Fitzgerald, last night and again today, just the magnitude of those catches he made.
Yeah.
You had Tracy Walker covering him a few times. I'm just curious if you could elaborate on that matchup, why you liked him on Larry.
I think we tried to mix some of the different coverages there and not make it always the same so that they couldn't get a beat on it. And we had a couple different guys on them through the course of the night. They did a good job of finding them in those situations, and obviously those were big plays downfield. But I have a lot of confidence in Tracy. Tracy's done a great job through training camp, and if you watch a lot of his one-on-one coverage drills, as you guys have seen through camp and through the competition that we had with some of the players, some of the other teams that we brought in, he did a really good job on that stuff. There's always a marriage of rushing coverage that has to take place on a defense, and especially when the ball's being thrown 40 yards downfield. There should be a little bit of a duress in those situations, and Larry just does a great job of being able to bend to the ball, find it, and extend his arms, extend his hands. He's got amazing hands, and just be able to pluck some of those balls out of the air. So those are hard situations, they're tough plays, and we just got to keep working at them. But we did try to keep it moving from that aspect of it, so it wasn't always the same look.
Yeah, the TV camera sort of caught Stafford saying what appeared to be at least, trust me, after that timeout, that third down, the second third down play. I was just curious if you heard that. A, B, how do players go about building trust with their head coach, and what is your trust level in that, for that matter?
Yeah, I don't think any of that's really an issue. I think, we have a great trust relationship, so I don't think that's kind of a story. I think it's a raw emotion of probably the situation. I think all of us obviously understand what that play is, and we can dive into that play as much as we want to. But the fact is, we called the timeout because the clock was running down. The mechanics of how that works with the officials, and to see the play clock go to 0 and then know that there's a slight pause, but we really don't know what the 100th of a second looks like because we don't really have that ability on the play clock. it's better to be in a 3rd and 5 than a 3rd and 10. And, there's a lot more plays in the game that come up after that play and even before that play that could have made a difference. So it's never one play. It's certainly just one of those plays that is out there that you look at and say, oh, well, that would have been a great way to end it right there. But it isn't, and we got to line up in the next play and just get lined up and go. And that's what we do. It's just next play mentality, and we got to keep executing all the way through. And so for us, if, we're not relying on just the one play. It was a series of events. We missed the next one, and then we had the punt block and the rest of it from that standpoint.
Absolutely, and I didn't just mean the play. I guess I just meant the trust in Stafford. Like, what has he done to earn your trust? How much do you believe in him and his ability to see everything that goes on at that position?
Yep. I mean, it just sum it up like 1,000%. Like, it's too long of a conversation. I think through the course of multiple different conversations and media sessions and all the rest of it, I think everybody knows how much I think of, how highly I think of him and trust him. So there's no issue there.
You said last night. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah, go.
You said last night that you needed to look at the film about, to evaluate T.J. Hawkinson's performance after looking at the film. What do you think, and how do you keep him playing at that level?
Yeah, that's a big challenge because obviously he had a big night. He had some really good plays, and I think he did a good job in both the run and the pass game. There's a couple good blocks in there too, which is good for a player like that. But it's it's the first game, and we certainly know how that goes through the course of the NFL season, and guys take a look at it, and defensive coordinators will obviously recognize that. So it becomes more difficult, I think, as the season goes on, and we're going to have to try to do different things to keep him productive from that standpoint. But he did have a really good night from that standpoint, production-wise. I think there was some really good route running. A lot of those plays, though, really, when you look at them, they're set up through whether it's play action or run plays or different sort of other looks that complemented those plays and maybe give credit to the previous couple plays and the previous couple looks too, kind of as that all ties together. I think that's important from that standpoint. But, it always becomes very difficult afterwards when somebody has a performance like that with, everybody else in the league taking notice too. So certainly I do the same thing, from my perspective, if I see that from an offensive player. So it makes it a little bit more complicated as you go forward.
Matt, I was curious
a couple more.
At the end of the game, Matthew had the pick that was dropped and Brownlee salvaged the tie. I'm just curious, and I know you have a good sense of where Matt Prater's range is at a given game. Do you have a set benchmark of how far Matthew can attempt a Hail Mary pass at the end of the game?
Yep, we do. We know about where the range is, where we got to get to in order to kind of launch it downfield. He's got a very strong arm, so we're confident in that end of it. No, it's just but it's we're trying to get those chunk plays and get down into a good position. You certainly don't want to the farther it is, the more he's got to hold the ball, the longer the timing of the play. So you're trying to get down as close as possible in those situations. That particular situation, we're obviously trying to get the ball towards the sideline, the best we could, before the game ended.
Yes, that distance is strategic information.
That would, yeah.
Justin, last one.
I'll come back.
It wasn't a loss, but somehow it kind of feels like it, and the fan base is obviously. How did you wake yourself up this morning, come to the office, and talk to the guys about, hey, you didn't lose?
Yeah. Well, we don't go to sleep, so we just kind of flew back first and just kind of go right at the game. It's not, it's tricky. Today's a tricky day with that sort of stuff because there's only one goal, and that's to win. And when you don't win, everything else really doesn't feel the same. So I think the biggest thing for our guys was just to, understand that we had a great opportunity to win the game. We didn't finish that off. We have to finish the games better. I think there's a lot of plays in there, starting with myself, where we could have done a better job to help us win the game. I think everybody in that room feels that way. I think that's the disappointment, I would say, is something that I don't want to say I'm proud of, but it shows me that everybody cares a lot about winning, and that's a good thing because that'll push us forward as we go. It's real important that, that everybody's out there just trying to work really hard. And I think, honestly, the group is really trying to win for each other. I think they really care about each other a lot. You can see it. You can feel it. It's not going to help us win, but it does help us give that effort to try to go win, which is important every single week. So, that part of it, I made sure that those guys understood that this morning too. That's important. Sorry, one more.
Going back to Dave's question about the trust level with Matthew and just after seeing his frustration on the sideline or after that timeout call, is that something, or is there a case where you go and you see him out and you guys kind of talk and have a little one-on-one about that? Is that important to do?
Yeah, we talk all the time, a lot, one-on-one, group, all of it, and we have those conversations. And certainly, what's one of the things I enjoy the most being in this position is that I actually have a lot of conversations with the quarterback in general, just all of them, in situational football and situations and why we do things and what happened here and what do you feel or how did you see this, and because I think the more that we can just understand, both sides of it, then the better we can be in those situations. So certainly I think after the game, there was a lot going on through the course of the game, and managing the rest of the fourth quarter and then into overtime wasn't maybe a particular situation right then at that moment, to go over, as kind of we were dealing with some other things in the other two phases of the game. But certainly after the game and then today and go back through it, we'll always have those conversations. We'll certainly circle back on all those. Okay.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep.